the channel, guys. My name is Jess. So Bitcoin printed its first weekly high on the RSI in over a year and a half. But despite the development, we still failed to push past an RSI downtrend that's been capping the price action since early 2024. In today's video, we're going to dive into the short time frame and the high time frame charts and talk about the consolidation that's been occurring since that weekly candle close and what it tells us about Bitcoin's next major move. Will we go past 123,000? Let's find out. As always, before we dive in, make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to get regular Bitcoin analysis every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, and sign up to my free Telegram for more regular Bitcoin updates. If you're a trader and you're interested in joining my VIP trading channel, be sure to message me down below on Telegram. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trading setups with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. Alrighty guys, so jumping into the weekly candle close, let's talk about what happened and why it was so important. So on Monday, we had our weekly candle close a couple days ago, and for the first time within a year and a half period, Bitcoin was very, very close to breaking out of this major RSI downtrend. We've been in this downtrend since $74,000, and it essentially marks out the diminishing momentum that has been occurring throughout every single all-time high since then, meaning that every subsequent rally has been less aggressively bullish and more risky, right, as we risk that potential top with consistently diminishing momentum. So we're building bearish divergence, but in this most recent new all-time high at $123.4 thousand, we saw something pretty amazing. We had a high on the RSI print for the first time within that last year and a half period. We can see very clearly here on the RSI, every single high has been essentially lower, right? Particularly these highs that developed across the new all-time highs. But over here at $123.4 thousand, we had the first high print here on the RSI since 2024 or early 2024. And so with that weekly candle close, we had a potential where in momentum starting to flip bullish, we could break out of this major RSI downtrend. Now we can see exactly what happened. We tapped 123.4 thousand, but after that we saw a little bit of a correction for Bitcoin, right? We moved back down to retest what is quickly becoming our major level of support here at $116,000. And in that correction, we failed to break out of that structural downtrend. Now at support right now, Bitcoin has a potential to reconsolidate and push back upwards, reclaiming 123 and potentially even pushing past. And so in this next weekly candle close or even subsequent weekly candle closes, we're looking still for that potential RSI breakout, and otherwise losing this level of support, potentially the end or a large correction here for Bitcoin. So we're going to dive into the charts on the short time frame and the daily chart and talk about what's developing here on these smaller time frames as we push up against that RSI downtrend and as Bitcoin retests these sort of really crucial levels between 123k and 116, and what the short time frame charts are showing us in terms of what the next major move is going to be and what is going to trigger it. So jumping into the daily chart, we can essentially see a pattern of behavior that really validates the level of support that we have thus far at $116,000. And that is essentially the loss of the uptrend that we've had here on the daily chart since $98,000, since the breakout here of this horizontal period of consolidation and rally up to 124k. That's that uptrend over there. And essentially what we've seen since tapping $123,000 and claiming 116 as support is that despite this sort of increasing selling pressure that we're seeing developing across the RSI and decreasing buying pressure here, despite all those factors, we're seeing successful defense of this level right here at $116,000 with repetitive retests on the daily time frame of that level of support, and yet each daily candle close manages to remain travel above that level. But that also tells us then that below that, we have quite an aggressive volume gap too. We have an aggressive sort of rally upwards, this period right here, this chop zone that we're currently in, our neutral territory, and just below it, quite an aggressive segment of price action potentially ahead, right? So if we lose our sell-side liquidity down here at 115,600, that's that local low there, we have a potential to see quite a large correction down to retest, first of all, the 50-year MA on the daily chart, or the end of this volume gap, including other short-term frame levels of support, we'll talk about it in a second, and movement down to $112,000. But this, thus far, on the daily chart, what this price action has essentially painted out towards for us is quite bullish, right? We're seeing a lot of strength from the buyers, and absorption of any selling pressure that exists at these upper levels of resistance. And I mentioned it a couple videos ago, I think it was 2 videos ago, when we were just starting to tap these levels over here. That is essentially all we needed to see on the daily time frame to facilitate continued bullish price action. And so even though the weekly candle close wasn't as bullish as it could have been, we didn't break out of the RSI downtrend. While we remain travel above that 116k support, we have a second chance or continual chances to break out of that downtrend, as long as this consolidation eventually results in some sort of bullish, I guess, continuation or development, right, and a breakout above our current level of resistance at 120k. So with that in mind, let's jump into the shorter time frame and talk about the consolidation that we're seeing here and what that hints, or what it tells us about the potential next trajectory for Bitcoin, and whether or not we're going to see a breakout. So the consolidation here so far between 116k and 120k has been so insanely choppy. It's been difficult to map and difficult to sort of keep track of, and there's been a lot of pattern shifting. So at the start, we had some sort of parallel channel going that shifted into a symmetrical triangle, which was then later invalidated. And now if we just focus on this most latter segment of consolidation between 120k, this resistance right here, and our support 116, we can see that we have developed this sort of parallel channel or a descending channel. Now those are inherently bullish. They generally lead to a bullish breakout, which we are currently seeing. We've seen a bullish breakout right here and a retest of the structure right now. We've got 30 minutes left to the 4-hour candle close. We'll see how that develops. But if we manage to hold above the structure, we will have currently managed a bullish break of the structure. And the measured move for that would be the height of the channel, then taking us from $120,000, the breakout point over here, and up to retrace $123,000 movement into this next liquidity zone up here, ending at 122.8, and then of course our buy side liquidity, the all-time high at $123,000, right? So really huge breakout potential right here, and sort of maps out the next signal, at least on the short time frame, if the 4-hour chart manages to continue retaining movement above that horizontal level. Now, the major bullish trigger here that we're looking out for, besides the structure, is of course then the horizontal level as well. We can see the range high for the structure here is right at the top of that level of horizontal resistance at $120,800. And so if we manage to close above that, that is our bullish trigger for a continuation up into this liquidity zone and to retest $123,000. Now, in that instance, obviously what we're looking for then is a push above that prior all-time high at 123, and in that scenario we're very likely to see a continuation upwards, and very likely as well see the weekly candle close finally push above that RSI downtrend. Now, the other case scenario, and what I'm particularly worried about here on the short time frame, is unfortunately a rejection from $120,000. If this breakout fails to push above that range high and this level of resistance, because even though we've had a great structure over here, we need structures, horizontals, and momentum to all signal that bullish continuation potential. Right now, horizontals is where we are struggling. We are really struggling to push past that 120k resistance. And if we fail to do so, and this consolidation leads to another sort of retest of 116k, that level of support that we have right here, we risk a potential correction, right? Because with continual retests of support or resistances, at some point, one of them has to give, right? And particularly with continual retests of support with consistent lower highs on the price action, that generally tells us that at each test of support, the buys are becoming progressively weaker. So even though on the daily chart we saw we're still definitely holding support, on the short time frame we're still definitely holding support, there's only so long that can last. And even though the structure can't be mapped out using a direct trend line, what we're essentially creating here is something very equivalent to a descending triangle structure, right? Where we have a horizontal level and continual sort of retest of that level of support, with the buyers decreasing in strength every time, consequently leading to the development of lower highs. And at some point in this sort of structure, we tend to see an absorption of the buy wall or the defense that exists at this level, and eventually a breakdown, right? So losing 116,000 and moving into this volume gap to 113.5, the 200 EMA at 113 flat, and then of course $112,000, the next available level of support in the end of this volume gap right here. So clearly the current segment of short-term frame price action here for Bitcoin is quite important. We're in between what could be a pretty major breakout from a level of resistance and a retest of 123,000, or a potentially large correction if we lose $116,000. Now on this shorter time frame chart, there is one last structure that we should probably talk about, and that is our sort of higher time frame uptrend, the one that is mapped out on the daily chart as well. It has that same uptrend as the RSI, and it takes us from that $98,000 point. Now thus far we have seen 2 more retests, so 3 in total, confirming the uptrend. And in the past, what we've seen moving into the uptrend is similar sort of downtrending periods of consolidation against support, but in retesting the uptrend, we have seen an aggressive sort of rally and bounce from that structural support. So this time we're seeing sort of a similar pattern build up, right? We've got this sort of downtrend happening against the level of support, and we have most recently tapped the uptrend. Now that is pretty important, because what we should be seeing against that uptrend is then a breakout. That's what we want to see, and that's what sort of is validated by the potential breakout of this descending channel structure as well. But what it also tells us though is if we lose $116,000, we will also be losing this major monthly uptrend, and that again supports the analysis that if we lose that level, we're very likely to see quite an aggressive correction. And if we zoom out onto the daily time frame, the next level of support mapped out by that structure exists all the way down here at $110,000, right? Being the prior low in that structure. So at some point, guys, clearly something has to give, and Bitcoin will either break out from 120K, being our major bullish trigger and continuation trigger, to 123 and potentially beyond, RSI breakout and everything else, or we lose 116,000, our monthly uptrend, and we see a correction to, first of all, 113.5, this next peak in the VRPV, the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, and then of course the next level support ranging from 112 down to $110,000. Alrighty guys, that is all the analysis that I have for you today. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. If you enjoyed the video or you learned something, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to get regular Bitcoin analysis every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. And sign up to my free Telegram for more regular Bitcoin updates. If you're interested in joining my VIP trading channel, be sure to message me down below on Telegram to get exclusive access to my personal trading setups. And if you want 15% off your trading fees, you can create your account using my affiliate link. Hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!